What value do you bring to the game? What are you doing in any setting that you're in that's believable, that people will remember, and that links back to everything you've done successfully in your life? If you remember, I asked you what you wanted to be as a kid, Raina, and you gave me all the characters. You gave me all the characters in your story. You told me you wanted to be a girl group, a producer, a doctor, a fashion designer. Those were all characters that you created in your ability to tell a story. So if you don't control your personal brand, two things are going to happen. Social media or other people are going to do it. You're in control once you decide what you want to put out there.
Hey, this is Raina Campbell, your Chief Dream Driver, and welcome to the No Parking Podcast, where through conversations and discussions with creators like yourself, we'll find interesting approaches to help you take your dreams out of park, put them in drive, and ride towards success. Hey, Dream Drivers, welcome to episode 199 of the Dreams and Drive podcast. And I am so excited for you guys to hear from today's guest, Rich Keller, who is one of my personal coaches. I met Rich through a Princeton alum named June Archer, and I'm telling you, he has been somebody who has been very pivotal in my own life, in my own career, in building dreams and drive. He's someone who's really made me cement around my one word, which is storyteller. Rich is a personal branding guru, influencer, and motivational speaker who helps young adults step into their power so they can be seen, heard, and valued. I'm excited for you guys to hear about Rich's own personal dream driving journey, how he overcame cancer at age 26, and how that was a really, really pivotal moment for him to make sure that he was doing whatever it took to get him back to his life's purpose and living in alignment with his mission and vision. So make sure you have your paper and pen or your notes app on your phone ready so that you can take notes, because I'm telling you, there's a lot that Rich is going to discuss in this episode that you'll want to remember. I, alongside Chef Courtney Futch, who's our episode 59 and 60 guest, we're going to be hosting a intimate 30-person dinner party called The Road Trip. It's going to be a night of good food, good drinks, and good conversation. I want you guys to come out. It's on April 27th in Jersey City, New Jersey. So if you're interested, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/events, dreamsanddrive.com/events. Tickets are going to be sold for only $30, and the link opens at 12 p.m. Eastern on April 25th. So make sure you get your ticket before it's sold out. I'm so excited to get to meet you all in person and just to have fun and do what I love doing, eating and talking, you know? And if you're looking for ways that you might be able to participate, if you're a brand or a small business and interested in maybe sponsoring some items for the goodie bag or maybe a raffle, please message me, email me, Raina@DreamsAndDrive. I would love to hear from you. I'm also looking for a presenting sponsor for the night. I know it's last minute, but you know, sometimes you still got to hustle. You still got to put it out there because you never know who will respond. So if you're interested in being part of the road trip that night, please message me or hit me up. And if you love this episode with Rich, you guys know what I'm going to ask. Please make sure that you're sharing it on social media. We are Dreams and Drive across the board on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you can also use the hashtag Dreams and Drive as well. I love seeing you guys screenshotting and sharing on Instagram stories, Facebook, Twitter. Keep doing it because it helps us get more dream drivers on board. All right, so let's get to this episode. Hope you guys enjoy.
Raina, love you.
This is, I think this is going to be a very special episode, listeners. Rich, I feel like how did we meet again? Was it through June Archer?
Yeah,
yes, June Archer.
And I was captivated within 5 minutes of meeting you.
Why do you say that?
You have an incredible presence. You were wearing a red power suit. I was like, big smile. I'm like, I'm going to be friends with this girl. And we're friends.
Yes. And you know what's funny? I wanted to wait to tell you this just so that I didn't freak you out. But guess who emailed me? Like legit, I'm going to tell you the timestamp of her email. 11:58 a.m. And we started recording around 12. June Archer, the woman who we met through, she just emailed me and told me she was thinking about me. Isn't that weird? Isn't that how like the universe comes together sometimes?
Well, I talk about you all the time. I talk to June at least twice a week, and I always talk about you, and we say how great you are. And if your ears aren't ringing, they should be.
Thank you so much. So let's take it back a little bit, Rich. I really want to allow our dream drivers today to really get a peek into your life and the transformations that you've had over the years. As you've told me, there's lots of lessons that you've learned about who you are and who you can become, right? So let's go back to the young Rich. What was inspiring you as a child?
I love that question because in my new business venture that we'll talk about, one of the things that I think there's a direct link to is who you were, who you wanted to be as a kid, and who you really should be, or who you aspire to be in your adult life. So I'll say a couple of things. As a brand marketer, it's always been for me about the customer, the consumer insight, which is the aha moment, how it all comes together. And I think, when I look back over the last couple of years, I've had a chance to look back on my life. There's one thing that I realized about myself, and I grew up invisible in my home. Mm. I grew up in a really, I would say, challenging home from the perspective of, I had an older brother and a twin sister, and I wasn't smart.
Wait, you have a twin sister?
I do. I have a twin sister.
Okay, I didn't know that.
And I wasn't smart enough. I wasn't athletic enough. And, I always felt like I didn't have an identity. And I think I longed to be seen and valued. And so there were two things that I wanted to be when I grew up. If you asked anybody that knew me, I always told people I wanted to be a talk show host, mm-hmm. and I wanted to be an actor. And the reason was because from a talk show host perspective, I loved bringing people together around a conversation and a discussion. And I grew up loving Oprah, Phil Donahue. Ryan Seacrest took my job. That's the job I really wanted. And when it came to being an actor, I absolutely loved Broadway musicals growing up. And I felt like...
What was your favorite?
My favorite? Well, I think growing up, my favorite was probably Annie and Les Mis. I saw Les Mis like 8 times. I could sing every song. Mm-hmm. But I think both of those ideas of being an actor and a talk show host put me at the center and allowed me to be visible. And it was more from that perspective of people just knowing who I was that I really longed for that connection as a kid. And throughout everything I've done in my life, it came back to that idea of it's about connecting. It's about emotionally building relationships with people. And the way to do that is by bringing people together. And those two things were something that I've always wanted to do. And as a motivational speaker today, I'm actually doing that now in a different way. And that's the full circle for me.
So you mentioned that you felt invisible at home. Did you also feel invisible in school? And how did that feeling invisible kind of translate as you grew into an adolescent, into your college years and so on?
One of the things, having a twin sister, we were always in different classes. And all my friends were in her classes. And so this is really the truth. And I say this in my talks when I speak around the country. I cried every single day in school because I felt so alone, but I also knew I was different. And so one of the things that I did that I look back on now is I really sought connection from my friends because they really valued mm-hmm. the person that I was. I felt like I was very giving. I felt like I was very loyal. And interestingly enough, being true to myself and knowing that I was different, I was actually voted most likely to succeed in high school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I look back now and it was because I didn't change who I was. Yes, I was lonely. Yes, I wanted connection, but I guess I realized that if I couldn't get it at home, I would get it through my friends, and they accepted me for the loyal and giving person that I was. And then when I look back on that accolade, I say to myself, we all have challenges as kids. Nobody has it easy. And I being true to myself has helped me become who I am today.
So you were voted most likely to succeed. What do you think your peers would have said you would have been most likely to succeed in? Like, what was the path? Because I know you weren't always on the path of telling your story and motivating others, right?
Right. No, absolutely. I graduated college as an accountant, which, if you know me very well,
that doesn't seem like the best fit for you.
I was miserable. I spent 5 years in accounting, and I was the person who, when I went to the clients, I was the one that was in all the offices of my clients, the employees, talking to them and building relationships with them, versus being in the back room with my calculator. I think, Raina, I think the idea of most likely to succeed for me, as I look back, was just making an impact in the world. I guess because I had that longing for connection and that longing to be seen and heard, I never had the courage to really put myself out there until, I'd say, the last couple of years. And I think it was succeeding in making an impact in the world and leaving what I hope is a legacy that makes the next generation that much more stronger. That's how I look at it.
That makes me think about a trophy that I received in middle school that I just you just made me remember about this. So they had I think it was 8th grade, end of school year awards. And I got this little trophy, and it was for the community leadership award, right? It was the person who was very community oriented, because I went to a private school. They were all about community. You know how that is, right? So I got the community leadership award, and thinking about that now, I really feel like those parts of my personality and those parts of my purpose were present at that age, although I may not have seen myself as a community leader.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. Absolutely agree. And I think, being young, we don't see that, which is why it's so important to always have people that you mentors, people that you trust, people that'll give it to you straight, because those qualities that you don't see, your blind spots, other people do. And I wish that I had people much younger in my life tell me that I did have courage and I did have confidence to go out there and make an impact and change the world, and put the less focus on money, which we all need to survive, but put the focus on gratitude and giving back. And I have completely changed my mindset now about that.
So let's go back to the accounting days. 5 years in accounting, you were miserable. What was the light bulb moment, or what made you get out of it?
Great question. One of my clients was a consumer products company. It was Unilever. And I remember going every day to that client, and they made Tide. I think they made Tide, or they made some laundry detergent. And I remember smelling the laundry detergent on the floor every day and saying to myself, wow, I want to be a marketer. Never thought of that in college. I want to be a marketer. I want to help build brands. And the problem was, every time I interviewed for a job outside of my current accounting career, I was at Coopers and Lybrand, they would want to put me in the accounting department. And I didn't want to do that, because I knew that would just continue to entrench me in the world of accounting. And so I came to the realization that the only way that I was going to be able to get into marketing was to go to business school and to get my MBA. And I, through a lot of challenges, I'm not a good test taker, absolutely awful. This was a moment where people said to me, I think I got a 530 on my GMAT out of 800. And very proud of it today to say that. And everybody said to me, good luck trying to get into a top business school. And I think that those moments of when people didn't believe in me really fueled me. And so I said, okay, watch. And I ended up applying and got into Wharton. I went to Penn.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I think, Raina, they may have made a mistake sometimes. So that's why.
Don't say that. You can't be motivational and then say that, Rich. You can't say that.
No. That's why the diploma is in Latin, because, you don't know what it really says, but I got it. It's in my house. And I think at that moment was when I realized that, I'm going to get, once you get in, you get out, as you know, from being at Princeton, you do get out. And I pivoted into the world of brand and marketing and the consumer interaction. That's when I realized, oh, this is the perfect opportunity for me because I get to grow and build things. I get to speak to consumers. I almost get to be a psychologist because in some ways getting to that insight is all about the market research and you become a psychologist. Mm-hmm. But I will also say to you that I almost didn't go to business school when I got in because I was diagnosed with cancer at 25 years old. I had testicular cancer. I woke up one morning and my entire world came crashing down. And it was literally 2 weeks after I got into Wharton. And I think that was a moment for me because I really did think two things were going to happen. One, I was going to die. And two, I wouldn't be able to have children. And that was one thing even though my childhood was challenging, I really wanted kids. Mm-hmm. But I also look back now and I think it was fuel for me to say, get out of my way. I got this incredible opportunity and I'm going to spend the next 4 to 5 months getting better. And I made that decision. I ended up moving all of I had my treatment across the street from Wharton at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia because I planned ahead and knew I would have to go every 3 months while I was in school. But it was also that idea of just keep going. You can make this happen. You can, if you have the fortitude to do it. So I think there was a lot happening to me at that moment, but it was at that moment when I realized that life was so short, I had to go. And I think that was a real moment for me to, realize that you got to do things now. Like, don't wait. There's no waiting. We don't have time to wait.
Well, that is such an important lesson because I feel like when things happen to us, we can see them as permanent obstacles, right? And you could have easily given up, but you created solutions for yourself. And I feel like we as humans, we are solution. Sometimes we see problems as deterrents instead of ways to exercise, our innate ability to find solutions, right?
Yeah. I mean, I look back now, it's easier to look back and realize, the learning, but it's fear. It's the unknown. I'm comfortable. There's two circles for me. You're either in the ordinary circle or the extraordinary circle. And a lot of people live in the ordinary circle because to get into the extraordinary circle, you have to be comfortable with the unknown. You have to be vulnerable. There's risk and uncertainty. But I felt like at that point, after being sick and going through all the treatment, in some ways, that was what I always tell people, and people look at me sometimes a little weird. Best thing that ever happened to me was getting cancer. Because at a young age, I got to see what challenges people encounter. I got to understand what passion and fortitude is. And I was in control because you're not in control when you're sick, but when you get better, you're in control again. And it's your job to get into that extraordinary circle. So in many ways, I didn't know it then, but I hate the word failure. The word failure should be changed to growth because without failure, without challenges, without obstacles, you can't be inspired to be successful because you don't, somebody that's never had any of those issues doesn't really know, are they really growing, I guess is what I would say. Is there really growth there? If you talk to a lot of people, and I know a lot of guests you've had on your show, most of them will tell you that the greatest learnings were the failures, were the opportunities where I was challenged, I had failure, and they were hidden gems of growth built in there. And I wish I had coaches that I didn't have coaches then when I was younger. I didn't, I don't need them. And I wish that somebody would have said to me, that's the gem right there. That's the growth. That's the opportunity. And so I'm on a mission in some ways to get rid of that word failure because failure is another word for growth.
Was there ever a point along this journey early in your career? You beat cancer. You're now a marketer, brand marketer. Was there ever a time where you had a relapse in belief in yourself?
Yeah. Raina, that's an incredible question because when my daughter was 9, I have 2 children. My daughter, Samantha, she's 17 today, and my son, Zach, is 20. And when my daughter was 9 and my son was 12, my wife had advanced breast cancer. She woke up one morning, she's an OBGYN, detects it every day, and she ends up with advanced breast cancer. And I have to tell you, that was a real pivotal moment for me in the sense that I realized that very quickly that if my wife dies, and there was moments where she looked at me and said, I don't think I'm going to make it out of here. And I remember saying to myself at those moments, this is something I tell a lot of people. You have to earn people's like, and there's a difference between like and love when it comes to children. And I knew my children loved me, of course, but I don't know if they liked me because I wasn't as fully engaged with them as I should have been. I was traveling, I was working, I was moving up the ladder at, Kraft Foods, Nabisco, Godiva. And I had that moment when she was sick. It was a wake-up moment for me because I went back to how I felt as a kid. And the one thing I was missing as a kid was connection. I felt invisible. And it was at that moment that I made the decision that, and this is just me and my decision, I made the decision that my career wasn't more important than that relationship with my family. And you have to remember, I'm young at this point. I'm in my early 40s, and most people some people never get there, but most people don't hit those sick stages until later in life. And so for me, it was a real pivot for me to start thinking about my career, thinking about who I was, realizing that if you want to live a life of connection, then you really have to figure out how to change this game. And once again, my wife being sick, 7 years later, she's doing amazing, but it was another wake up. It was almost like somebody was knocking on my door saying, Rich, you're about relationships. You're about connection. You're about bringing people together. Don't lose sight of that. And I got lucky because I had two major events happen to me that we got out of, but it was my wake up call to build a deeper relationship with my children, figure out where I really wanted to go in life, which is where I am right now. And I ask people all the time, what failures have you had that have built your character? Because without that, it's hard to have growth. So that was my moment, Raina, when my wife got better, where I said, if you're about connection, you better walk the talk, and you better, it's easy to say it, but you have to go do it. And 7 years later, I've built a relationship with my children, and at the same time, I've thrived in my career. That's the difference. You can do both, but you have to have a plan to do it. It doesn't happen overnight. And you really have to step back and think long term about the relationships you want to build and nurture, because you can't at the end say, let's have a relationship and get deeper into our connection. It doesn't work if you haven't nurtured it in the beginning up front.
So I believe back in episode 172, I talked about how I quit my job, right? And listeners, I'm going to just give you guys a backstory here. So Rich was actually very pivotal in helping me make that decision, and also giving me like the tools or just how to navigate the whole process. Do you remember that whole time period?
I do. And I remember calling you when you officially did it. And I said, congratulations. And I tell people that because when you leave a job, lose a job, I've lost 3 jobs in my career. When you leave a job or lose a job, number one, congratulations. And number 2, you're going to thank the person. I said this to you. You're going to thank your former boss. And as a joke, I do that to a lot of my other bosses that I'm still in touch with. Thank you for eliminating my job, because where you're going next, Raina, I said this to you, is so much better than where you are now. And it's a stepping stone. And I'm proud of you, because a lot of people I don't know if I would have had the courage to do what you did at such a young age. And I love that I was able to share some of my insights, and you're doing exactly what I wished I had, which is listening to a coach, listening to people that believe in you and are motivating you. So I actually smiled. I was so happy, and I'm still happy because I think we continue to talk and work together. I can't wait for the world more of the world to see you in action.
So I brought that up because, there was a point too where you said, I have to quit my job, right? So talk us through that moment where you were deciding to 100% pursue what you knew has always been inside of you.
Yeah, thank you for asking me that question. I've had many friends of mine say to me quite often, but I never internalized it. They would say, Rich, you're hitting base hits and doubles, like you're a home run guy. And I never really understood Like, what do you mean I'm a home run guy? I have an MBA, I'm working, I got all the, I have great companies under my name. And about a couple, maybe 2 years ago, my son was applying to college and I was getting him ready for interviews. And I said to him, tell me about yourself, because I don't know if your listeners know this, but it only takes 7 seconds to make a first impression. And the elevator pitch, which sometimes people chuckle at, is so true. You're in an elevator. What do you say to someone? And he looked at me and he said, I don't really know what to say. And I said, let me understand this. You're a smart kid. You're in a private school and you wouldn't know how to answer the question. Tell me about yourself. And he said, well, I probably would tell them I'm a senior in high school, which a lot of people do. They tell you what they do. They don't tell you who they are. Mm-hmm. And so I said to him, listen, during my career, Raina, I would build the identities for all the brands I worked on. I've worked on some incredible brands, Godiva, Oreo, Planters, Chips Ahoy, and I would craft their identity in one word to break through the clutter. Because as you know, we're hit with thousands of messages a day, and the ones that really break through are the ones that have a true identity and know the value that they bring. And so I decided to do that on my son. It was all in my head at the time. And he came out with an incredible one word. His value is perseverance. The kid never gives up. And then I said to him, you have a month to come back to me with a personal statement for college that really demonstrates how you live perseverance, so that the pile of applications, which everybody has the ACT score, everybody has the GPA, but when you pull out and read those essays, that's when you discover someone's value. And he came back with an incredible essay about a campfire event at Sleepaway Camp that he was involved in that was so unbelievable. It's going to go in my book someday that I'm writing. And he got into Cornell. He's a sophomore at Cornell today. Now, granted, he was smart, absolutely had the credentials, but the one thing that pushed him over the edge was people knew the value he was going to bring to campus. And so about a year later, I was at a lingerie company. I wasn't very happy because I'll share my one word in a bit. I'm a catalyst, and I wasn't able to be a catalyst. I was being a babysitter at work, and I went to work one day and I quit.
You just you didn't give him a 2 weeks or anything? You just walked out?
No, never burn a bridge. Never burn a bridge. I worked out a plan with them. I absolutely, it was all done on the up and up. They left on amazing terms, but I will be honest with you, I left not knowing exactly what I was going to go do, but I knew where I wasn't working. And so I had always wanted to be a motivational speaker. As a kid, as I said, with talk show host and an actor. And I honestly thought I was going to go and just talk about my story. I'm a cancer survivor. So is my wife. I've been on this journey, and I enrolled. You know how crazy it is, Raina, when you're on social media and you're thinking of something and then an ad pops up like, oh my God, how did they know I was thinking of that? Literally a motivational speaking school ad popped up on my feed. I clicked on it and I decided to enroll. It's an online webinar-based program. And the first thing you learn is that nobody cares about your story unless they can answer the question, what's in it for me?
That's kind of how marketing is too, right?
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. What solution are you bringing to my life? Because it's about me. It's not about you. And so I thought one night, I literally got up in the middle of the night. I woke my wife up next to me and I said, I think I have an idea here. Why am I not going around the country into high schools, colleges, go to conferences, go to companies that have young adults? And why am I not inspiring these young adults to discover their value in one word, quick, easy, snackable, discover their value in one word, and then build their whole identity around it? Now, at that point, I got up the next morning and I did what a lot of people do, Raina, and I know you did this a little bit too when we've been talking to one another. I started sabotaging myself.
Yeah, talking yourself out of it, right? Like, someone's done it before.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Who's going to care about their one word? And so I called up a couple of my friends. I called one of my coaches. I called my best friend, called my in-laws, and they all said, oh my God, love this idea. I'm like, no, come on. I wanted somebody, June. We called our friend June. June's like, that's brilliant. And that's such a unique way of you bringing your career in. And I hung up and I went, oh, that was not what I expected. I wanted somebody to say no. And I came up with this acronym called SCORE, which stands for Stand Out, Conquer Obstacles, Reach Excellence. And I thought about a title of my talk, which is called Life is a Game. Branding is how you score, and you take out the word branding and you put in your word. And we all know, well, your listeners don't know, your word, because you went through my process and love you, is storyteller. And so you would say storyteller is how I stand out, conquer obstacles, reach excellence. And I have to tell you, Raina, I had the courage finally to say to myself, I'm going to go for it, because I realized at that moment when I hung up and called everyone, I realized it's not about me anymore. It's about what impact. Everybody says, oh, what's your legacy? What impact do you want to leave? I realized at that moment, I want to leave a legacy of people discovering their value younger so that they can chart their path to success by knowing what they bring to the game.
Why do you think that's so important, especially the younger part?
You know why it's important? Because one of the things I look back on now is when you build a team, whether it's home, whether it's a project, whether it's an organization you belong to outside of work, you really want to make sure that you have the right people on the team. And so what makes it really beneficial, I'm a catalyst, and I quit my job because if you make me a babysitter, I'm not going to deliver the most value to what you're asking me to do. And so it's so important when you're with coaches to say to them, my value is as a catalyst. And a coach then can help you build your resume and link it up to your value, your LinkedIn profile, share it, your social media. How do I let people know I'm a catalyst? Well, I inspire, I energize, and I motivate. So my quotes, my learnings, that's why it's important younger, because you can chart the yellow brick road and be fulfilled early and not be so unhappy like a lot of us are in the world because we don't like our jobs.
Mm-hmm. I'm just thinking about the whole process that we had even in the beginning and how I forgot what I first said. Like when we went through the process of like, what's your one word? It was so hard, right? Because we keep wanting to describe, as you said, what we are and not who we are. So Rich, can you give us a mini exercise that you think anybody at home can do to start thinking about how they can go about discovering what their one word is?
Absolutely. I the best way for me to do that, Raina,
okay.
I see it during my talks, is I captivate the audience when I talk about some of the brands that I've worked on or studied and their value. And that's when the light bulb, that consumer insight moment, the light bulb goes off. So let's do an example, and you and I will work on one together.
All right.
Have you ever chewed Dentine gum?
Yeah, they're like the little, I have.
Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being really fruity and 10 being incredibly minty, give me a number for Dentine.
When you said fruity, I rolled my eyes like, what? It's not fruity at all. I would want to say like 10. Like they're very, very minty.
You got it. Okay, Raina, you're awesome. Because if you had said 1, I would have to stop and say,
what's wrong with my taste buds?
You got it. So when I was I worked for Cadbury for a year, and I worked with the Dentine brand, and it was right around the time that fruit gum was coming out. And they thought they were going to lose their shirts. This brand's going to die. And I said, you know what? Let's go out, which people don't do often, and go and talk to your consumer. I don't care if it's 1 consumer or 12. So we went out and did some focus groups with teens, because it's a teen-based gum. That's really their target. And I was in the back room behind the glass wall, and I heard a teen say something to the moderator that exploded a light bulb in my head. The teen said, if I am not chewing Dentine gum, I don't get the girl. And the moderator said,
wait, really?
Yeah. The moderator said, what do you mean by that? He said, listen, if my breath isn't fresh, there ain't anything happening. Okay. And at that moment, and he said, it's important, he stood up a little, like he was being a little bit more, stoic. And he's like, you gotta it starts with the fresh breath. And at that moment, I said to myself in the room, wow, the value that Dentyne brings to the world, they're not in the gum business. They're in the confidence business. Right. And all of a sudden I said, that is what the successful brands do out there. They don't talk about the product. That's functional. They talk about the role. What role does Dentyne play in this kid's life? This kid needed fresh breath. And all of a sudden he's confident. He goes on his date. He can get close to the girl and he can kiss the girl. And it changed the whole dynamic of how we approach the brand. And that is and in my talks, well, I speak in colleges and high schools and companies and conferences. That moment is when people say, I never would have thought about that. So I turn it immediately around to them and say, what value do you bring to the game? What are you doing in any setting that you're in that's believable, that people will remember, and that links back to everything you've done successfully in your life? And if you go through my process like you did, if you remember, I asked you what you wanted to be as a kid, Raina, and you gave me all the characters.
Yes.
You gave me all the characters in your story. You told me you wanted to be a girl group, a producer, a doctor, a fashion designer. Those were all characters that you created in your ability to tell a story. And that example right there with Dentyne really made, when I told you that moment where I had this idea, I thought back to that example. And I said, if I go out there and tell people about the brands I worked on and pivot the discussion to the value of the brand instead of the product, maybe I could change lives. And that was an incredible moment for me.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking about that whole conversation, and just something that just popped in my head is just how much storytelling is in my life. Like I don't know if you follow me on Instagram stories, you might have seen that I posted, like I found this autograph books. I don't know why. I think my friends call me I'm like the archivist, right? Like I keep archives of everything. Like you need something from first grade, second marking period, I got it, right? So finding this little autograph book where my friends were telling me about, like, you know, most of them said I was bossy. All of them said I talk too much, right? And they were all like, but we love you. We love you. We're going to miss you. Have fun at your new school. And I'm thinking about how those are things of a storyteller, keeping the records, right? I've always been the photo keeper, the record keeper, the researcher, because you need that for a good story. So sometimes the things that we find ourselves doing, they also fit into our one word, right? What is something that you found yourself doing a lot that really fits into who your one word catalyst is?
Yeah, for me, it was I disrupt. I'm a disruptor. I mean, I'll give you a disruptor in a way of doing things differently. Okay, that's the important piece, because a lot of people say to me, listen, nobody likes disruptive people, could be trouble, but I always try to win you over before, because it's all about getting to know me, connect. This is the thing about life. Get to know somebody really well. And then when they come in and want to make history by being who they are, you're much more apt to go along on their journey versus coming in, changing everything, and I don't know about you. And so let me give you an example of something that I did at Kraft Foods that I realized it made me a catalyst. And so it was 1997 or 8. It was the carb craze when everybody was on the Atkins diet and everybody should have been eating peanuts. And I was on the Planters business, and our business was not doing well. And one of the reasons, well, you know, my CEO called, I'll never forget, and she said, fix it. And I was like, okay. And literally, what did I do? I got a group of people in my office. I crowded like 15 people in my office. And I said, we have to fix this. What are we going to do that's going to help people buy more peanuts or Planters nuts for the carb craze? And literally, Raina, true story, on my bulletin board, because it's all serendipity, on my bulletin board was the word nutrition, just spelled out. I don't know why it was there. I don't remember. And I literally got up and I had the aha moment, and I put a dot between the T and the R to create what became a $100 million plus idea, nutrition. And it was a health and wellness line of nuts for nutrition, brought to you by Mr. Peanut Nutrition. Now, the reason I'm telling you this story is because I look back now, and the reason that I am a catalyst and I'm a disruptor for change is because I mobilized that company, Kraft Foods, huge company. In 8 weeks, we had that out in the market. And if people that know me well still tell me, boy, you walked around to everybody in that company because we had the nuts, we had the name, and we needed to move quick. You have to make it happen. And so it's out there 12 years later. I get flutters in my heart when I go into the supermarket. I just went last weekend with my son, and I go up to it and I say, you know what? I changed lives. I got people. And the reason it worked is because people had a home. People compartmentalize things in the world. The home they wanted was, what is my health and wellness nut? And what's my party nut? Planters is a party nut. We didn't look like a health and wellness nut until we put out the nutrition line. And so I look back on my son's bar mitzvah, my daughter's bat mitzvah. We just did things differently. But we got people to notice that we were doing things a different way to make change or to make impact. And even in high school, my fraternity, things that I did, I realized I bring people together. And the funny thing is, I don't actually, not that I don't do the work, I lead the work. I'm not necessarily a change agent where I do the work, but I bring people together and then I lead as we navigate out and let them get the credit for bringing it to market. But it's all done by the catalyst bringing everybody together to create that action.
I love that you said that, because I think one of the things, even when we work together, is accepting your one word, right? And not feeling like you have to do more than what your one word is. So for me, example, storyteller, right? But you know, one of my big things is I have a hard time like diving into just one thing, right? Like I kind of see myself as I want to do everything, or I can do this thing too, or I can do that very well. How do you take knowing your one word and then moving through life with it and being, I guess what I want to say, committed to the one word, right? Because you can know it, but then you don't accept it and then you don't actually use it or have it be what leads you.
That's amazing. Absolutely. And here's what I would say to you on that question, because I get a lot of people that ask me that. Your one word and your core, I call it your core value. It deepen your core. Raina Campbell is a storyteller. Rich Keller is a catalyst. Okay. But if you want to, after 7 seconds in the elevator, people say to me, what do you say in the elevator? I say, I'm Rich Keller. Catalyst is how I score because I deliver momentum. Okay. And somebody will say to me, wow. And then I say to them, you know, if you want to have lunch, you want to grab coffee, if you're going to spend more time with me, I'm going to tell you other things about me. I energize, I encourage, I inspire. But here's the secret weapon. And you and I talked about this. Everything you say ladders up to your core values. So everything Dentine does ladders up to you can be confident. And so I'm not telling people to not say another word after they share their core value. But what makes you a storyteller and your ability to trailblaze, your ability to help others, your ability to be insightful, you're a communicator, a detective, you build all the characters that you told me about. Those are things you would share with people for credibility. For credibility, because if I learn one thing in marketing, like one message that I tell people to take away after they work with me or they hear me, consistency breeds credibility. And how do you be consistent? You say the same thing again. You could say it, you can give them different words, but if it doesn't ladder up to Raina being a storyteller and Rich, it's like me being a catalyst, but I babysit everyone and I don't do anything that, you know, inspires change. I'm not being authentic then. Mm-hmm. And so part of working with me is you get your one word, but you also get a lot of other words that ladder up that if you want to spend more time with me, I'm going to tell you. But if you don't spend any more time with me than 7 seconds and you're looking the next day, the next week, the next month for somebody to break that foundation and disrupt the game, you're going to remember me.
One of the things that I think you mentioned it before we started recording, Rich, was you talked about, with me, you were like, I don't think you yet know how great you are, right? And I think that's something that a lot of us sometimes we don't yet realize the beauty in our purpose, the beauty in just how great we can be, right? Like what would you say to that person who is on the journey, but maybe still doubtful of where they're going?
God, I wish somebody would have asked me that question, when I was late 20s, early 30s. I would say a couple of things. Two things I'm going to say. One is you have to build a group of people around you. You have got to get an incredible support system around you. You cannot do it alone. And the reason is because you need people to fill your bucket, and you also need people to empty your bucket. And the one thing about me now, which is sort of, I laugh when I tell people I run my own business now. I could tell you like it is. Like I could tell you, Raina, and we've talked about it. I could be upfront with you and give it to you straight. And you've been amazingly coachable, which I love. That support system, that network of people around you that are going to help you win, they're going to help you fill and take away, is so important. And if you look at the people that are successful today, and you go back and ask them the question, they're going to tell you, I had an incredible support system around me, good, bad, and ugly. That's number one. Mm-hmm. The second thing I would say is the one thing I never did well that I tell every young adult today is about networking. And I had somebody ask me 2 weeks ago, what is the secret to networking? And it was because I was at an event and somebody said, oh, is so-and-so coming? And the answer was, oh, that person's not coming because they already have a job. Why do they need to be at this event? And it really hit me. I went into the corner to write some notes because I didn't want to forget. I now know the secret to networking that I wish I knew in my early 20s. And the secret is you have to network when the going is good. I scream this now. You have to build your gratitude bank when the going is good. Go to the events, have the coffee, do the networking, and ask the people one simple question. How can I help you? Because what happens is, number one, people need help, and they're going to put it in their bank, and so are you. And when the chips are down, you're going to be able to go to that bank, and you're going to be able to pick up the phone, and people are going to love to help you because you help them. But what do most people do like I did? I failed at this, but it was a learning opportunity. I networked when the going was bad, and I didn't have any gratitude in the bank. And so what happens is you become paralyzed. It's fear, and then you don't end up calling, and then you sit at home being very passive. You become an active player in your passive game, and you think, oh, well, I applied to 85 jobs online. Nobody's going to call because you're not putting yourself out there. So today, and you and I are a perfect example. I met you at lunch, and I'm like, hey, go through my one-word process. I put myself out there. How could I help you? Because I know that when I need help, I'm just going to go back to my bank. It's so much easier. You're more confident. You feel like, I got the hang of this. This is awesome. So any young adult that's listening to this episode, network when the going is good. Take the time, go, put yourself out there, introduce, help, because the minute the chips are down, you're going to have a much easier time getting back on track because you can go back to the people that want to help you, and they will help you because they're going to remember you.
So, Rich, for the past 9 months, you have been, pursuing being a catalyst full time, right?
Yes.
What, though, has been a challenge for you? Like, what are some things just deep in the trenches that, like, you're really working through that has been difficult?
Sometimes we don't follow our own rules. And so a couple of things I think have been some of the challenges. Number one, understanding that consistency breeds credibility, that it's okay to do the same thing again and again and again. And the example is every time I speak, I wear black jeans, a black jacket, and I wear a colored shirt with my word on it, my word catalyst. And people say to me, you wear the same outfit all the time? Yeah, because it's not about my outfit. It's about me. And so if I look the same and I keep it in the Steve Jobs-esque world, people are going to start remembering me and connecting me. So number one, it's about consistency. The second thing I would say is you got to be known for one thing. you and I talked a lot about this. You can't be known for 5, 6, 7, or 8 things because then you're watered down. So I have to keep remembering I'm about helping people discover their value in one word. Could I evolve from that? Absolutely. But that's the thing. I'm going to be known for people helping them score in one word. So knowing your one thing that you're bringing to the world and sticking with that to build your credibility. The third thing I would say is this is something that I finally got over myself about. People say to me, they'll look at me and they'll say, you're working for free. You're doing that talk for nothing, or you're working with that person. Because here's the thing I learned. And I learned this from a couple of, my mentors and just people that I look to out in the world. There's 2 buckets you fill when you're building your own business as a young entrepreneur. The bucket number 1 is reputation. Bucket number 2 is income. And you have to decide which bucket you're going to put your request in. And there are so many times over the last 9 months, I've gone to conferences and I have given out my workbook for free because for every 100 I give out, I get 2 or 3 back. And I'm building my reputation regardless of whether I make money. And I'm seeing the benefit now of people speaking to other people, and I'm getting invited. And now I'm starting to get some money for the income bucket. But at the end of the day, free work is no longer free. It equals reputation. And so I have to understand in my mind and get comfortable with myself. It's not what other people say about me. I'm building my reputation. I went to Boston last week in the morning, got on Amtrak, came home at night, did not get paid, but the reputation I built by being on that panel will absolutely help me in the long term. And it's an investment in myself.
Mm-hmm. The question I was going to ask you is just for fun. Do you think that there is a public figure out here who needs to go through this one word process with you? Like a celebrity, just somebody that people know. You're just like, wait, you're so, you could be so much better if you only really zeroed in on what your one word is.
Okay, you're going to think I'm completely crazy, but I watched your episode on Lauren Williams, the Olympian, and I literally reached out to her because she said something during her episode that you and I have been talking about. She gave you 2 URLs. One is hers, and then one is her Worth Winning. Mm-hmm. And I immediately thought to myself, this is something that young entrepreneurs, I believe, are not maximizing their potential when they don't bring their brand, the personal brand, and the platform together.
I know you've been barking at me about this.
Yeah, because people buy human connection. People are buying. What do I say to you all the time, Raina, when we get together? You're so captivating. People are buying Raina Campbell, and so marrying the two. So I emailed Lauren. I was like, "Great podcast! Oh my God, I love Dreams and Drive." And I said, "Hey, I'd love to chat with you because I'd love to help her." And the funny thing is, she was great because her whole message about being a financial planner, but she's helping athletes. That's the credibility right there.
Yeah, she's an Olympian, Right.
And so the credibility of, if I go to worth-winning.com and I read about her, but I don't really get full blown that she's an Olympian. And then I'm going to read about Lauren. I thought to myself, wow, if she married the two, I'm helping you do, or at least I'm forcing you to do. I'm kidding.
You should see my face right now.
Yeah, because your platform isn't a brand until you build your personal brand. So if you look at Howard Schultz many years ago when Starbucks started, he came back to America and he's like, wow, if I brought that coffee experience to America, people bought into his purpose and mantra of building community. That's their one word, by the way, Starbucks. He wanted to build a coffee community and a place for people to come and relax. It would have never happened if people didn't buy Howard Schultz's purpose and dream. So I only use Lauren as an example because I love that. One of my passions is young entrepreneurs, but it's understanding that your platform is not your brand until you build your personal brand, and then your platform little by little becomes a brand. Dreams and Drive could be an amazing brand down the road, your whole media company idea, Raina, down the road, but it's after they buy you, and then all of a sudden you pull back and your brand goes forward, your platform goes forward to become a brand. That's what I would love to help young entrepreneurs do. So I'm using her as an example because I just love that episode. And I think that those young entrepreneurs, I'm working with a couple right now, helping them understand that put yourself out there first because people buy human connection, and they buy the why you're doing it, not the what you're selling.
So I'm going to push back here just because I know there's somebody out there who probably has that question or that response that I used to give you too, which is, but what if I want to keep my personal life personal? You know, how do you build your personal brand without feeling like you're giving all parts of yourself to the world, right? Because you see in the media, right? Like, you know, celebrities or whatever, like they have no personal life. Like everything is up for scrutiny. So how do you combat that?
Yeah, it's something my coaches tell me all the time. And I think I've said it to you, and I'll say it to your listeners. You get to control what you put out there. Mm-hmm. Like you can't look at a celebrity and to me, a celebrity and a person building a personal brand to some degree are two different things. And what do I mean by that? I get to decide if I want to share my story about cancer, if I want to share my children. If I don't want to put them out there, I don't talk about it. But the minute you do, this is where the game changes. You can't put it out there on a Saturday and say, oh, Monday, I don't want to talk about it. Doesn't work. And the clients I work with, when I share that idea that you're in control, and it's funny you say that, Raina, because one of the things I talk about in my talk is the phone has made everybody a personal brand. Yeah, this is what people don't get. So I use Miley Cyrus as a good example. Would you ever have Miley Cyrus babysit your newborn? And people look at me in the audience and go, no way. And I said, why? You don't know her. And they said, well, that's what we read about her. And I said, bingo. So if you don't control your personal brand due to your phone, two things are going to happen. Social media or other people are going to do it. So if you take the reins and decide what you want to put out there, like I love your question because I spin it to you all the time. Are you basically telling me you don't want to be in control? You're in control once you decide what you want to put out there. Mm. And so I tell my daughter, who's in high school all the time, you want to put bikini shots out on your Instagram? Great. But if I go look for you after an interview and I see 300 bikini shots and I don't see anything else, what am I thinking? You're a party girl. You're on the beach. By the way, not a problem. But if you want to sprinkle those into being an athlete and being a driver, because that's her one word, and other things, I'm saying to myself, you know what? This is an all-around girl. I really like her. So I'm not telling people to be fake because authenticity rules. But if you don't want to talk about your family, you don't want to talk about your past, that's your decision. But you can't be a storyteller, Raina, without telling your own story. See, that's why marrying yours together is the winner, because you're a storyteller. And if you don't want to tell your story, you're not being authentic. But you can decide what you want to tell. And I would say the litmus test is tell things about yourself that inspire others, because people want real. We're in a trend right now where people want realism. They want people that are not perfect. And so you're going to get much more hits when you marry Raina the storyteller with my podcast called Dreams and Drive, because I'm helping others tell their story. So I'm going to beat you up on that still. You know that. I know.
I'm trying little by little, right? Little by little. It's just this, it's funny, the whole RainaCampbell.com. Like, I don't even use that website, but it's funny. People still go to it. I still get so many hits on RainaCampbell.com, and I'm just like, okay, maybe I should, do something with this one here. So as we wind down, Rich, what keeps you going when you feel like giving up? Like right now, 2018, moving into 2019, what's that thing? What's igniting your flame?
Yeah, I think a lot about that question. I'll share a couple of things. I think for me, the number one thing not the number one of the most important things that keeps me going is my purpose. I understand my purpose now, and I want to help young adults reach their goals and dreams faster than I did. And so I always, when the chips are down, and I'm human, everybody's got those moments, I go back to my purpose and the idea that I want to pay it forward. The second thing is I think a lot about my kids, because one of the questions when I work with clients, I ask them to write their eulogy. I ask them what their legacy is going to be. And I go back to wanting my kids to see me walking the talk. And so I put the onus back. It's not about me anymore. It's about others. And so I think a lot about my kids and the message that I want them to say about me. I don't want people to talk about Godiva when I go. I want people to talk about, he helped me understand who I was. Mm-hmm. So that's one. I would also say, remembering that it isn't about me. I mean, one of my coaches really got me over that hurdle. Video is a big deal these days. And I put myself out there now. I don't care what I look like. If you're not necessarily buying me, you're buying my purpose. You're buying what I'm saying. So I always go back to, it's about others. It's about gratitude. And I would say, living the way you want to be remembered. That's a mind shift, Raina. It's about the mind is so much stronger than anything else in your body. I go back to the why I'm doing it, and it really helps me. I have to say that's been a real winner for me, and I help others do that as well.
What are some resources that you would recommend to our dream drivers that have really helped you along this journey, Rich?
Yeah, a couple of things. I recommend Brené Brown's 2 TED Talks to everybody I work with. She did a TED Talk on vulnerability, and she did a TED Talk on shame, and it really helps you. That really transformed me. I would love to have lunch with Brené someday, because she really made me understand that you can't win this game if you're not vulnerable and you don't take those risks in life and become the person that you are. I would also say I read a lot of Brené's books. Daring Greatly has been one of my favorite books. The number one Bible that I carry in my hand all the time is a book called Building a Story Brand. And it's by Donald Miller. Once again, it's called Building a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And he tells you the 7 key ingredients to building a story that I think is really, really very powerful. And if it's okay, Raina, I'd love to share the one thing that came out of that book that I think your listeners would really benefit from, because I talk about this in my talk as well.
Tell us.
It took me almost 15 years into my marketing career to understand the fact that in any story that you tell, if you're a brand like Godiva or you're a personal brand like Rich Keller, the brand is never the hero in the story. The brand is always the guide. And so that was really powerful for me, because a brand does 2 things. Your brand either delivers value or makes money. And the brands that deliver value realize that they are the guide. And so as a catalyst, trying to help people discover that one word, I guide myself into people's lives. You as an example, you're the hero in the end. You are the hero, the consumer, because when you found out you were a storyteller, you were ignited to go make it happen. And I think a lot of brands and people, especially personal brands, people try to be the hero in their story. And it's not about you. It's about the consumer coming to your talk or coming to your site, Raina, or coming to your podcast and saying, what am I going to learn that Raina, the storytelling guide, is going to tell me, the hero? And so that's changed my whole perspective on branding and marketing. The brand is never the hero in the game. You're always the guide going into consumers' lives. They're the hero.
You know what's funny, Rich? His publicist reached out to me for him to be on the show, back in April, and it was like something that I overlooked. I was just thinking, and he was recently on Amy Porterfield's podcast.
Yeah.
And my podcast group were like, "Oh, this is such a great episode," and I recognized the name, and I was like, "Wait, I've seen this name before." So I'm gonna try to get him on the show if they're still trying to do interviews.
And please, anybody listening to your podcast, it is the best money you will spend. Buy the book, Building a Story Brand, because whether you're a brand, whether you're working, I don't care what you're doing, you need to understand the hero's journey and how to tell a good story. And someone like you, Raina, I'm buying you that book.
No, yeah. You know what? I would also say too, I'm going to link to it at dreamsanddrive.com/bookstore. So you guys can go and you can get it there as well if you want to just get a direct link.
Awesome. They won't be sorry. It's an incredible book. I carry it with me all the time.
So, Rich, let's transition to our lightning round. Are you ready?
Yes. Well, I think I'm ready. I mean, you'll tell me how you think my answers are.
So this part of the interview, I'm going to give you a quick prompt, and I want you to tell me the first word that comes to mind. And remember, we're sticking with our dreams and drive metaphor. Okay?
You got it.
All right. So the first word is park.
I would say paralyzed.
Reverse.
I would say fear.
Neutral.
Neutral. I would say passive.
And then drive.
The first word that came into my mind as soon as you said that was courage. Courage to stand in that extraordinary circle and live life on your terms.
If you want to be a dream driver, you have to have your keys to success. So, Rich, can you tell me 3 things that you think every dream driver needs in their toolkit before they hit the road?
Only 3, Raina?
Yes, only 3. Can't be too heavy getting in our cars, right?
Absolutely. And I just love your metaphor for dreams and drive. I'm going to say the first one is a strong support system, because one of my favorite songs is from Barbra Streisand, and it's "People who need people are the luckiest people in the world." And so I would say that strong support system will take you so much further than anybody will. Anything will in life when you have a great support system, good, bad, and ugly. Like I said, they tell you the good and the bad. I'd say the second thing is, I said it before, but I'll repeat it, understanding that the brand is never the hero in the story, that they're the guide, and always remembering that when you engage first and sell second, you will sell a hell of a lot more, because engaging with the customer first, they're the hero. They're going to just come into your family, and the rest is history. So I would say that as well. And the third one I would say, and it's something I love about you, and I'm just going to, continue to say that to you and I when we talk, is you have to have a captivating story. Everybody wants to hear story. When you go into a restaurant and you see the story at the opening entrance, that's intentional, because they want you to be a part of the family. They want you to know that we're just not an ordinary restaurant. We are, Aunt Mabel or Grandma so-and-so. Have a captivating story and share it, and own your store. Own how much you want to put out there, because you're in control of your dream and drive.
Thank you so much, Rich. Can you tell our listeners how they can get in contact with you, how they can work with you further if they're interested? Let us know where we can reach you at.
Sure. Let's see. My URL for my website is therichkeller.com. And that's because my name was taken. So it's therichkeller.com. Instagram, you could find me on at Rich S. Keller, S as in Scott, my middle name. So at Rich S. Keller. On Facebook, you can find me at The Rich Keller, and you'll get to my Facebook page. I would also say one thing to your listeners as well. I have a process. I have a workbook that I sell, and I don't sell it for a lot of money, because I'm not in it for that reason. I'm in it for changing lives. And Raina, you were through my test period in my workbook. It's so enriching to learn about yourself, and for such an easy process, it's a lifetime of just joy and happiness when you know who you are.
Well, I'm going to definitely link to everything there at our show notes at dreamsanddrive.com. And I am personally just going to thank you here while we are still recording. Rich, you have been such a blessing in my life since we met. And I'm so happy to have you as a friend, as a coach. And you have really helped me in the past few months just propel Dreams and Drive forward, but also really helped me look, and I don't want to say I didn't believe in myself, but sometimes I don't think I believe in myself as much. And just getting your constant encouragement has really been so important. And so you don't even know, like, so many things. Just the word, I won't give the context, but just the word of, oh my God, I forgot it. Oh my God, the 2 words you gave me during the quitting process. What was the words? Oh my God, I forgot.
That's funny. I don't
Do you remember, like, when you told me when I was going into HR, like I
think I may have said, I probably said you were in control.
No. It was like what I need to negotiate for, like a benefit, mutual.
Yeah. I said to you, you can go in there and it could be a win-win situation. You're in control of what you need to get, but you can get something for yourself without having to be negative about it. Yeah. And when you go in, put on the table what you need in order to win, and then always come to that middle ground and compromise, because
mutually beneficial exit package. That's what it was. Yes.
That's a great,
mutually beneficial exit.
And Raina, you asked me when I left the lingerie company, did I just walk in and quit? No, I came up with a plan. I helped them. I didn't want to leave them empty-handed, and we walked out with smiles. And you never burn a bridge. Mm-hmm. And I remember saying that to you. We're in the moment. We want to give it back, but no, it'll come back to haunt you, because they'll buy the company that you work at, or so on and so forth. Raina, I just want to say one thing to you. Number one, thank you for having me. Number two, from the minute I met you in that restaurant in Summit, you're incredibly captivating. The one part of my acronym, stand out, you just absolutely epitomize that word. And I'm on a mission for the world to know who you are. So I'm not leaving. Just want you to know that.
Thank you, Rich. All right, so that's a wrap for episode 199. We are one episode away from 200. Wow, guys. If you enjoyed hearing Rich's dream driving journey and his keys to success, please share this episode with a friend. I think there are so many people out there who want to learn how they can know what their one word is and use that to fuel and drive their lives. So just make sure that you're tagging this, sharing it with somebody, making sure you're following us on social. We are Dreams and Drive across the board on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And you can use the hashtag Dreams and Drive as well. And don't forget, on April 27th at 6:30 p.m., I am hosting a Dreams and Drive dinner party called The Road Trip alongside Chef Courtney Futch, who was our episode 59 and 60 guest. Okay, guys? It's going to be amazing. It's going to be a great night of stories, dinner, and unlimited drinks. So if you want to come out, just go to dreamsanddrive.com/events. The link opens on April 25th at 12 p.m. Eastern. It's only limited to 30 guests, so please make sure you get your tickets ASAP. I'm looking for sponsors for the goodie bags, or even someone who wants to be a presenting sponsor for the night. So if you're interested and want to learn more details, just email Raina@dreamsanddrive.com. Shout out to everyone who's been subscribing and leaving reviews wherever you listen to this podcast. Please make sure that you're subscribed. And if you're an Apple Podcast or iTunes specifically, leaving a rating and review is so important. I want to give a shout out to Amelia, who left this review last week. She said, great resources for entrepreneurs, 5 stars. I was introduced to this podcast by a friend months ago, and it has been so motivational and empowering. I'm a design entrepreneur, and there are so many times I have second guessed if I should continue on this entrepreneurship journey. But listening to Raina and the variety of guests on the podcast has been such a blessing to me. Continue on your journey. It is so appreciated from those of us that sometimes doubt our purpose in entrepreneurship. Well, thank you so much, Amelia, for listening, and I'm so happy that you get this out of the show. It's funny because this past weekend, I was a panelist or a speaker at the Women's Her Story New York City luncheon, and getting to connect with people and seeing how the information that's being shared on the Dreams and Drive is so motivating and so impactful is so important. So please, please, please continue to leave reviews, continue to share this with your friends, because the journey isn't just about yourself. Cars are made with passenger seats. Cars are made with back seats. You have to think about who you're bringing along the way as you're driving, right? You still want to stay focused, but you also want to make sure that you're uplifting and helping to guide and navigate others as well along the way. Our next episode is episode 200, and I have a special announcement to make. It's not an event. It's something else, so you guys got to stay tuned, all right? Keep dreaming, keep driving, and we'll chat again in episode 200. Adios, mis amigos.